Okay, so we're live, and it's music time, and trying to get the VPNery, I guess. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I'm trying to get it set up on I got everything else set up, but as it is with the internet in Russia in 2026, I got to jump through 36,000 hoops to access what is literally just a video repository online. But 'tis the world we live in. Anyway, yeah, we're here. I've got a number of albums, as you can probably tell. I did not come up with like some clever text for the video description. I kind of forgot to do that. And honestly, I probably couldn't be bothered this evening. But yeah, by we I mean I have a few more albums this week than I want to say than I typically would. So I said last week that I was going to try and do it so that it would only be 10 per week, but I sat down and I just listened to more music than that, and we've got 12. So there are going to be 12 this week, and I think, long story short, I'm not going to be able to get the VPN open on my laptop. So all of the comments I just will not be able to see. So if anybody is watching this as a live, write the comments. I'll take a look at them, I guess, later on. But for now, we're just getting to the music. I don't want to waste too much time. And yeah. Also, why is that? Oh, crap. Okay. Let's just get into it right off the bat there. Okay. So first up, how's that? Yeah, we're good there. Okay. First up, we have an EP. Oh, I also want to say something too. And I talked about this a little bit at I think in a week or two ago, where I was talking about how, like with album groupings, I was still going to do that. But I sat down to figure out the order of the groupings and everything with the albums this week. And I think I'm going to be less beholden to that idea as we move into 2026. So with all of the albums that we're going to talk about today, they aren't grouped by genre. We are going to bounce around. In my opinion, they tend to get a little bit better. They get better as we go. I'm also going to, if I do a lineup like this where I'm not grouping it by categories, then I'm going to try to put the EPs more to the front, because I feel like EPs are just like their own beast and they shouldn't be valued, or they shouldn't be discussed or judged on the same level as albums. Those tend to be bigger and more serious works of art, although not always. So yeah, we're going to be today moving from kind of EPs into what I've labeled mini albums, which are between 20 and 30 minutes long, and then into full lengths. And we're going to be bouncing between genre as we go. And so this first one here, the EP Klятва by the group Gakurksk. I think that's how we say it. Gakurksk. It's an interesting one. This is cold northern folk music. It's 6 tracks that together tell the story of Ragnarok, and how, despite the mythological individual's best efforts, they just can't stop the end from coming. It is inevitable, and that they need to sort of live and just accept their existence, as that's all you can do. It's got a message. Cool. If you like music that's really atmospheric, got kind of an unnerving edge, it feels very ethnic, then this is going to be for you. I feel like this is the first real folk music that we've heard in a long time. Definitely in the second half of 2025, there were a number of groups that had like indie folk or folktronica, and that's good and that's interesting as well. But it does kind of feel like this is the first release in a long time that just feels like it's folk music. I think the one thing that the fourth track has a lot of like rock energy, which feels out of place amongst all of them. It's not a bad track, but it just in the grand scheme of the album feels a little bit out. But let me get into this here. So, oh no, oh no. Let me. I thought I had my headphones connected, and they did not connect. I don't want to be blasting music. Just give me a second here. Over the. Why did my headphones not connect? I don't want to be blasting music out of my speakers, because then that is probably going to cause feedback. So, all right, let me reconnect. That's a hell of a false start. You gotta be kidding me. All right, so it says they're connected. Just give me a second. Okay. All right. Transition back. Okay. Let's try this again. Hey, all right, there we go. Now I can hear everything, and it won't be blasting into the microphone, potentially causing a dangerous audio loop. Could disrupt the entire universe as we know it. Okay, I've got the stream open on my phone, so I will be able to see the chat if anybody decides to chime in. So, yeah, again, like I said, it's got, for me, that's what I would have, I guess, back in the day, probably thought of if somebody had said, like, folk music or ethnic music. I know it's not what we would typically think of when we think of folk music here in Russia. In fact, we're going to be talking about folk quite a bit today. I guess I could have led with that as well, too. But it does have that cold sound. It's definitely going for a lot of atmosphere, and that's generally what these 6 songs do. The exception is the 4th track. Like I said, it feels a little out of place. I'll just give it a second. It's much more upbeat. Right, like the electric guitar, just... So this track, like, first of all, thankfully it's the shortest one. I mean, none of them are long. But it does stand out when the rest of the music is like this. So I kind of wish that the group or the artist had maybe reconsidered their approach to that 4th track a little bit. But the rest of this short EP has this type of energy. And again, I know this is not like for everybody. Folk music, or whatever you want to classify this as, is for most people something that you have to take in limited doses. But as I was saying, it is a style, a genre, especially in this specific style of this specific sound that here on these music streams I have not. I don't know. I haven't run into. I feel like in a very long time, if ever. So yeah, if you're looking for something that, again, is kind of cold or atmospheric, but very kind of folk or ethnic or whatever you want to call it, then I would say you're going to be pretty safe with this one, with the exception of that fourth track, which is kind of doing its own thing. So that is the EP Klятва, and the group is Gakurkс or something. I don't. Gakурkс. Maybe that means something. I have no idea. Moving along, we are actually, this is a hip hop EP. We're jumping around. Like I said, there's no rhyme or reason to today. This is the EP Šestигранник by the artist ChipaChip. 6 tracks. Šestигранник, which is like 6-sided. So 6 tracks. Just the classic Russian rap sound with that melodic, half-sung, half-rapped lyrics. Instrumentals make good use of vinyl-feeling vocals, kind of like a crate digging aspect. It kind of sounds like a lot of soulful samples. It's not nothing. It's not nothing. It's nothing amazing, but it's not a bad rap release to start the year off with, at any rate. So let's give it just a little bit of a listen here.
Вот уже третья луна восходит на небосвод, и вот на тебя окно воduет, но не пройдет. Вот уже третья луна восходит на небосвод, и вот на тебя окно воduет, но не пройдет.
Любовь к тебе и музыке — это то, что не лечится. Все остальное с этим всем уже как-то не мэчится. Забыл самое важное, вспомнил о пустяках. Мы сами держимся, но врем не отпустит никак. Я лет 15 где-то так на пятак провздыхал. Кто-то послушает и скажет, что я просто хам. Куда б ни шел, я тут всегда возвращаюсь к стихам. Я не ушел, я тут кричу снова вам всем не хам. Ага. Эй, о. И вы плакали, от любви остались одни грабли.
I mean, yeah, this just,
Глаза в душе мои патрули.
it feels like Russian rap.
Главное быть вот рули. И вы плакали.
Be that good or bad, that just feels very Russian rap.
Ее глаза в душе мои патрули. Ты хотела, главное быть вот рули. Шелестел клен, шептал тихо камыш. Тебя манил то Лондон, то легендарный Париж. Я все пытался тут догнать, чё ты нахуй
Again, I kind of like
творишь?
half song, half raps text.
Ручьи звенели, но я был в боцах. И не помню тебя, у меня всегда тут был способ. Ты стреляла 2 раза из 3, и оба не воздух. А в Петербурге в июне небо сияет, как фосфор. Я уверен в себе, мне не нужен их лживый возглас. Я себя потерял в твоих глазках, черных как космос. Я себя потерял и нашел вопросами, кто здесь. На моей памяти кадрами твоя вечная подпись.
So yeah, again, nothing amazing, but also not a bad release. It's very short. Again, just 6 tracks. They run by pretty quickly. Some nice elements in the text as well too. The lyrics have a few moments, but for the most part, it's just it's not bad. Which honestly, I feel like with a lot of Russian rap, half the time is kind of I've been listening to a lot of stuff that I talked about or that I highlighted in various weeks back in 2025, and re-listening to some of it, just like, this actually kind of sucks. A lot of it is kind of like that. So I don't want to pretend like this is some a grand work, but I think, and this is why I say with EPs, it's important to kind of separate them away from the albums, because it's really easy to make 13 minutes of really tight music. It's another thing when it's like an entire album's worth. So that's why EPs, I think, are a safer bet for a lot of artists. Anyway, overall, definitely a fine listen. That is the EP Šestigrannik by ChipaChip. And from EPs, we're actually now jumping into an album. This is a goddamn long one too, an hour and 20 minutes. And this is, like I said, we're just bouncing today. I'm kind of going in order of what I think are, like, we're progressively getting better. Or if better is maybe not the right word. Albums which I think are going to be the ones that have more of an impact, or like the ones that later into the year are gonna be like, yeah, that was a cool album. That was a good album. They're all, none of them are bad. It's just some of them are better than others. This is by the artist Art of Time, and the album is 4. Honestly, this is not the type of album I would probably normally find myself listening to all the way through, let alone multiple times, which I did. But in the Venn diagram of house music and techno music, this is in that overlapping area. And there's something about it that kind of just hypnotizes you when you get into it. It could easily push you away. The intro track, I think, does a pretty good job of drawing you in. And actually, it kind of led me to believe that the music was going to be something a little bit different. But then I just kind of stuck around anticipating that what was teased on the intro track would eventually return. It kind of does, but in a different form. It's got lots of melodies, but then those melodies will, which are like kind of, it's more reminiscent of the house music end of things. But then with regard to the techno end of things, there's just a lot of sort of technical robotic sounds. Like, this isn't music that's specifically made for dancing. This isn't music that's supposed to wow you with the complexity. And it's not electronic music for just this sort of deep thought. It's just a vibe, I guess. It's that sort of, it's futuristic in both a utopian and a dystopian way. But the intro starts like this. Which I'm not gonna lie, I got hooked on this from the start. Album artwork, we got like some, I feel like, computer generated stuff, so I'm not gonna spend, maybe not, this might be artwork, but just these really long, slowly evolving songs. But I don't know, there's something hypnotizing about it once you actually get into it and the music starts going. Like, yeah, not every track will click with you, but there's enough here. It's just one of those things that, like, I put it on, I hit play, and I went about doing what I needed to do. And I don't know. Like, it's, I guess it's hypnotizing. I'm just gonna go with that word and let the music speak. Like, it's got a groove, but that sparseness, and again, some of those mechanical sounds. So, like, again, got the dancey groove kind of aspect of house, but then the industrial, artificial sounds of techno. And you can see from the track times too, right? 9 minutes, 9:44, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 8.5, 8.5, 7:40, 8. Like, expand and evolve at such a slow rate, but like you never feel bored by them. It never feels like you've just been listening to a single track for ages. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't even know this album was an hour and 20 minutes until I went to get the link to put it in the description, because when I was listening to this, during the multiple times I listened to this, I didn't realize an hour and a half had effectively passed. So again, I think you get the idea. There are some, I think it's on this one. Oh no, it's on Cyclotron. Yeah, 9.5 minutes there too. There are also vocal samples from old Soviet sources. I don't know what exactly they're from, but it is also a nice little thing that gets thrown in from time to time, kind of breaks up the I guess loneliness of the tracks, like by adding a brief human element to the whole thing. But again, as is always the case, I think you get the idea. I'm going to leave it at that. I would say give it a shot. It's actually, it grows on you. And even though it's maybe not the most flattering, it does make for good background music at the very least. So that is the album 4 by the artist Art of Time. Up next, we have it says single. Realistic, it's 2 tracks. This is what most people would consider a maxi single, but because this is like 15 minutes long, which, is quite a bit. We have 2 tracks, but 2 tracks at 15 minutes long, they have more ideas and weight and enjoyability than like a quote unquote album of similar length by some SoundCloud rapper. That also, so like, again, if it's 15 minutes long, even if it's 2 tracks, even if it's a single track, I feel like if it's solid, I'm going to talk about it. Not always. Obviously, as the year gets busier and more releases come out, then I might not have time for that. But this is what I'm going to call EP, the release Bomba Nastoyashchego by the group, and I honestly have no idea, Ciolkowska. They went with the Polish writing of the pronunciation. Honestly, there's 2 tracks. Both of them are really good. The first one is shorter. It's more focused on vocals. But in my opinion, the title track, the one that is almost 10 minutes long, is where this thing shines. It's very expansive. It's like psychedelic prog rock, but it never feels lost in space. Just feels like it's constantly rocketing forward. Again, it's going to be very hard. I'm going to skip around like to 2 different places in the track and kind of give you a go there. But with a 10-minute track, it's kind of hard to make it understandable. But also, I really like the album artwork, like the collage. It's very clear that somebody actually sat down and made this. Like, if psych rock or prog rock are not your things, then this is just going to be a hard no. But if you are open to those sounds or that type of guitar-based music than also there's like a bit of a backstory with this group. I don't really know too much about it. There's just like I did a brief read about it, but evidently this was a larger group and then it kind of disbanded, and then two of the members decided to continue with the project, and they had an album recorded before the group broke up, but then they decided to like re-record it, and so like these tracks right here are the first output of the now duo kind of reimagining and reworking what had originally been music for a band and kind of reworking it for just two people. So I mean, like, it's a 10-minute track. I can jump around and try to hit it, but it's good. It's just really good. It's, again, psych, prog rock. The title track is obviously the Ciolkowska, the first one, like I said, is a bit more focused, a bit more down to earth, a bit more vocal heavy. But I do honestly think that the title track is where this thing shines. And as is often the case with EPs and shorter releases, since the price of admission is so low, I always just say, like, give it a shot, even if you're not fully on board with that. So that is what I'm going to consider an EP, Bomba Nastoyashchego, by the group Ciolkowska. Also, just fantastic artwork. Cannot get enough of that. Okay, moving on. We have it says album. This is definitely an EP because, again, it's 15 minutes long, right? Like the single with 2 tracks was 14 minutes and something long. This is 15 minutes and 23 long with 7 songs. So yeah, this is definitely an EP. This is not an album. So whatever. This is the artist semьсот, or 707, and the EP here is Zima 2. The word that I saw to use this, or to describe this, the word that was used to describe this was dreamcore, which is, honestly, the definition I found feels AI generated, but I'm going to go with it. Ethereal tones and hazy textures, which create a surreal soundscape, often used for dreamlike visuals and storytelling. I think that sound and that description could be applied to about half of this release, which feels, on the whole, like it's an attempt to escape from the dark and cold of winter. Zima, for those of you who do not know, is the Russian word for winter. Now, like I said, that's half of it. The other half does lean into that Russian internet pop sound, and artists like Kishlak and Skor, who we listened to last year at various times, kind of back up the internet pop suspicion. So yeah, I would say at times this release feels like waiting at the bus stop, partly hung over in the wee hours of the morning, right? When you are running on very little sleep. But then it also feels half like that bouncy, fun house party from the night before with you and your friends, when you're just looking into the perpetual twilight beyond the windows, when all you can see is the snow outside. It's got like both of the aspects of winter, the I guess good and the bad.
Как себе помогать? Нет, я так устал, хочу обратно в гай. Снег, опять зима, ебучий холод и друзья, все заново. Холодный патик, алкоголь, все как всегда. Сосед в кармане не пару сигар. Я выйду покурить на балкон. Бычок летит с окна на асфальт. Я думаю, что будет потом. Жизнь любит мимо так же кидать. Тушить меня бежали об пол. А мне лишь остается лежать и думать то, что мне себя не жаль.
Yeah, we're closer to that Russian internet pop sound. It definitely comes out more in other tracks, like this one. So that is the release Zima 2, Zima 2, Winter 2, whatever you want to call it. The artist is semьсот, 707. You heard it. You know what it sounds like. Give it a listen. Don't give it a listen. It's up to you. We're moving on. And we're moving on to the EP Fandango, by the artist with, it's a one-man project, one-man band, if you will. The artist's name, or the group's name, the project's name is Плавники, подводных лодок, which is like submarine flippers or submarine fins. It doesn't really matter. It's emo punk, and evidently this is like the 5th release that this guy has put out. But I do want to, pretty nice album artwork too. I do kind of like what they got going on here. It is emo punk, but there are 2 tracks here with this group, Post Restante, I think that's how you pronounce the name. And this is kind of an up and coming group here on like kind of the rock and metal scene. They're post-hardcore, and their presence, they worked with the mastering and sort of the, I guess, helping to create this release, and their influence can be felt obviously on the tracks that they are on, but I think in other ones as well too, because there's definitely a post-hardcore streak on this as well too. Yeah, I don't know. It's 5 tracks. The sound is very well honed. I do think that the project would probably benefit from some other full-time members other than it just being like a one-man band, as the tracks with Post Restante do feel a little bit more fleshed out. But yeah, I mean, even without that, this does feel like a really good release. It got a great opener.
Бросив дипломы, академшапки, покинув свой дом, вы мчите по пустынным трассам, меняясь местами и забыв про сон, чтобы выпить с друзьями в песке закопанный дом Периньон. И глядя в пропасть, пепел юности в банке, сыпать в каньон.
It feels like you can hear some of the backing vocals here, but it feels like at other points on some of these tracks you would want those punchy kind of chain vocal shout along aspects.
Знаешь, что будет дальше, неизвестность пугает, но так интересней жить.
Like, fantastic opener. But I do want to get to the one with the kind of like guests here, because I think that they're, like, you can feel them on the track.
Утро пролетит сквозь щель, между зубов занавески кто-то за ночь заменил тебя свинья батарейки. Спрятанная под кровать, по дому бродит тревога, фокус внимания, сбитая иголка заходит под ноготь. Пытки внутри головы, некого позвать на помощь, песня встает на репит, капля бьет по одной точке. Кони встают на дыбы, мчат во все стороны света, все разорвав на куски, но снова срастается дело. Это чувство иногда разрушает города.
You can hear the post-hardcore sound a little bit right now. So, yeah, I think those two tracks, there's a lot of other good stuff on this album, but I think just those two tracks right there, and it's probably pretty good that it leads with those two tracks, are a nice sample of what you're going to find on this EP. It is emo punk. It's also kind of a sound we're going to be coming back to in a little bit as well. It's got some speed, but then the post-restante guys bring in a little bit of that post-hardcore sound to spice things up on the tracks that they are present on. So that is the EP Fandango by the artist, or by the project Плавники, подводных, лодок. Moving on. We are getting now into some more electronic music. This is the EP Raw Glow, and it's kind of a project of two artists here. Omut Manit is the female vocalist, and the producer is skrpump. I think that's how we pronounce it. This is like electro clash pop. It feels like it was designed for the club in an odd way. But it also feels like just that kind of electro pop music mixed with electro clash. Honestly, was not expecting this, but it was this like really chaotic energy pick me up that I did not realize I needed this week. There's also a nice remix from Undergroover, who we listened to last year. He had an EP sometime in the second quarter, which was also really good. A lot of really good stuff there, and his remix does not disappoint. I mentioned like electro pop, electro clash. The final track does have a lot of drum and bass influence in it, so that's also definitely something that you can find here as well. But I do like the album artwork too. It's simple, but like very effective. Very captures your attention. When we get to the chorus.
искренним. Похватала одну страсть, ты мне хотел пропасть, и утопить меня. Выяви мне.
We got a lot of brooding energy on that one.
Спрятавшийся горизонт, солнце свесит ноги. Я иду, и ты идешь по пустой дороге. Золотой закатный луч приласкает щеки. Поцелуешь рука, мое солнце.
Like, obviously, all genres are so split right now in the modern internet, so there's no way that trends are going to sort of come back in any sort of meaningful way. But it is interesting to sort of hear these electro clash sounds come back, because I don't know, I feel like I've commented on this before, but it kind of feels like the new metal of electro music, like electronic music from about 20 to 15 years ago, which I think a lot of people look back on and thought it was pretty cringe, but it does feel like there are a growing number of artists who are digging into that sound and exploring it. So, and I'm all for it. I loved that back in the day, and I still enjoy it. So, yeah, 2 tracks there. You get a pretty good idea. There's a remix and then 2 other tracks, and yeah, but it's good. It's good. Again, a little bit longer than the last few things that we've looked at. We're pushing up to 20 minutes now, but that is the EP Raw Glow from the artists Omut, Manit, and skrpump. Skrpump is a hell of a name, but yeah. Moving on. We get to the first one, which says it's an album, but again, I'm going with this sort of new delineation, EP to a mini, like a mini album. Sorry, 1 second. EP. Okay, there we go. EP, mini album, and then like a full album, an LP. So a mini album, in my opinion, is something that's got like the number of tracks that you would expect there to be on an LP, so 8 and above, but it doesn't break the 30-minute mark, right? It's somewhere in that 20 to 30-minute mark. So turns out that the EP, or like the original LPs from way back in the day, when they first started to come up with those delineations, it was that the LP had 22, it could hold up to 22 minutes worth of music on each side of the vinyl for a maximum of approximately 45 minutes. So I feel like for groups that put out an album that doesn't break the 30-minute mark, then like, yeah, that would have been a waste of vinyl back in the day. Anyway, this is the artist metaego with the mini album Nuclear Eden Zero. And a sound that I didn't really define last year, but I danced around a lot, was pop rock. And I don't mean pop rock in the sense of like Coldplay or U2. I mean pop music that heavily uses rock instrumentation, giving it kind of this darker and heavier edge. It's still not a very good definition. I get that. But when I talk about pop rock, I'm talking about groups like Imagine Dragons, One Republic, Bastille, 21 Pilots. I think you get the idea from that, right? It's a type of music that those groups will often describe themselves as genreless, because they don't want to call themselves pop music. They're trying to go with like this edgier thing, right? They have a look that they're going for. And if there's like, yeah, we're pop music, it just like kind of spoils it. You see it a lot too with rappers nowadays. Like, well, we're a rapper. Like, dude, come on, you're a pop artist, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And that's kind of the same thing here with the pop rock here too. It's like a lot of people love that sound. It's a good sound. There's nothing wrong with it. So embrace it. So yeah, this is pop rock. That kind of Imagine Dragons, 21 Pilots, that type of sound. You could probably add the indie adjective to this as well, because there's a lot of artsy, emotional things going on, especially the final two tracks kind of close out the mini album on this really atmospheric, emotional ending. But I think we're just splitting hairs at that point in time. There's also like a whole backstory. The artist put out some sort of science fiction-y thing, backstory with this release, and there was a whole Telegram thing. I didn't bother to get into it. I'm not going to pretend like it matters. We're just here to listen to some music. So
Приходи меня убить завтра в 5-2 часа на метро, и мы встретимся. Делать вид, что мне ешь, что терять было сложно, но я знал, что потом будет весело. Сражаться словами и песнями, кровавое месиво. Я сложил свои чувства в конверты, а больше за них не ответственен.
yeah, like this is pop music, but it's got that little harder rock edge. There's a revolver on the album artwork. I mean, it's just edgy pop music, pop rock. But it's good. I like it.
Это не кажется жутким. Не уснуть, не проснуться, дни тянутся, тянутся, тянутся. Время на вкус безвкусно, в голове пусто. Мне это нравится. Едва ли я могу быть искренним. Это бессмысленно, какая разница? Завтра все обнулится. Наша последняя пятница.
I'm just gonna use that to transition.
Кровь течет по лицу. Я твой мертвецу. Тебя не будет сна.
Like, again, you could maybe argue that there's like a bit of an indie sound in here, but in 2026, like the sort of indie sounds that were indie 10, 15, 20 years ago have seeped into so much of the music culture and discourse that to pretend that they are only part of the indie scene now is pointless.
Электропровода, я цели стреляю без повода. Горят глаза, что мне уготовано. Со мной будет жарко и холодно, а без меня убить меня слишком поздно. Горят глаза, горят звезды. Кровь течет по лицу. Я твой мертвецу. Тебя не будет сна. Вечность что-то сломалось в груди. А твои руки, жаль думать, что любовь лечит кровь.
So yeah, it's pop rock, but it's good. It's good. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's I don't know. It's empty calories in the musical version, but that's okay. We like those empty calories from time to time. So that is the mini album here, Nuclear Eden 0 by the artist Metaego. And from there, we are back into that sort of like emo sort of thing. This is the group Heavy Gloom with the album Tяжёлый mrак, which literally means heavy gloom in Russian. So they just like translated their band name for the album. So it's self-titled, but I don't know if it counts as a self-titled, if it's translated. It's actually an interesting question. I saw one review about this, and it said that it sounded like early Fall Out Boy with a heavy dose of sugar added to sweeten up the vocals, mixed together with pop punk. Now, that's a lot of words to say that this is basically just pop punk. There are some sort of like heavier breakdown moments, and you could call them emo. I don't know why you would drag early Fall Out Boy into this conversation, but sure. It's just really good, really fun pop punk that has some heavier moments, some sort of more emo moments. I think the only thing I would say is I wish the songs were a little bit longer. There's a lot of them, but they're all very, very short. And I think that some of them musically would, like, I would like to see them have a little bit more room to breathe. But in general, I think as we would say, godna. So solid stuff. I honestly don't even remember. I feel like it doesn't even matter. I can sort of jump in, so. Why is there no sound? Is that just me? Are you guys hearing this? Hold up. Okay. Also, pretty good album artwork. Like, it's a little hard to understand it at first, but you can kind of see like the figures in that spiral. Right, they're like kind of heavy right here, right? Oh my. Okay, yeah, there's no sound. The sound is there now, though, right? I think it was just not. I think it was just that one track. And again, I'm going with the assumption that the sound is back, and it was just that one track. It was just Spotify. Go with the title track here. So I mean, like, honestly, this is the type of music I can imagine would have been. It's not good Charlotte, but it's the pop punk sound from when I was in high school, and like, I guess it's nice to know that some things never change. I don't know if this is aimed at high schoolers anymore, or if it's just like now for those like adults that grew up with this sound, but. So, yeah, again, it's pop punk. It's got some heavier moments. Is it early Fall Out Boy? Probably not, but whatever. I guess it sounds cool. Again, I'm calling this a mini because it's 12 tracks, but it's only 24 minutes long. So, again, just I might be splitting hairs, but I feel like I gotta come up with something just because it last year I ran into so many situations where there were releases that were technically beyond the EP, but just did not stretch to a full length. So this is the mini album Tyażёлый mrак by the group Heavy Gloom, and the Russian title just means heavy gloom. Okay, we are at the tab limit, and we are at our first LP. Actually, no, I take that back. Art of Time was the first LP. But this is the first one. I feel like we're in the final three. These are the ones that are a little bit... this is the album Наше, ничего by POLUSA. POLUSA. Poles is how you translate the name of the group, and Nаше, ничего is Our Nothing. It's an indie-ish kind of rock group out of St. Petersburg. This is their first album in about a decade. I will be honest, I don't think I had ever heard of them before. So, I mean, I guess it would make sense if they haven't really done anything in a decade. The album was supposed to come out about 5 years ago, but as the group says, certain things got in the way of that happening. Musically, there's a lot on this album that reminds me of what was going on in the indie rock scene in the States from about 20 years ago. A lot of moments that reminded me of Ted Leo, like Ted Leo and the Pharmacists. But the core of this sound is the St. Petersburg rock sound, which kind of feels like the classic Russian rock sound in a way, which, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's going to feel familiar for people, for listeners from outside of Russia. There's a lot of like Western sound here, but there is something unique about it, something that does like have its roots in the Russian rock sound. It's a pleasant album. It's just quite pretty. It's quite chill. Yeah.
Дела вроде ничего. Вечером немного легче, утром тяжело. Ну, а как у вас? Новенького что? Все по-старенькому, тоже ничего. Наше ничего с вашим ничего общего, похоже, не имеет ничего. Наше ничего с вашим ничего общего, похоже, не имеет ничего.
So again, I think it's a familiar sound, but it is a bit different. I don't know, maybe I missed something in recent years in the States or in the past, but I think the thing that really is that sort of what I think is like that St. Petersburg sound is in the vocals, in the delivery, in the singing, and the lyrics. Because musically it does feel a lot like the kind of alternative rock, alternative indie rock.
Дрожит, как в лихорадке, неуверенность в повадках и складках портьер. Разноцветными кругами воздух окружает пламя, и хрусталик глаза замечает сотни сфер. Говорим на разных языках, смысл понимая по глазам. Снова сумасшедший бьется в висках, в там-там, в там-там. Говорим на разных языках, потом. Моя доля травить себя дымом сигар. Ты меня полюби, но ты меня не неволь. Не поможет лютый холод, не поможет.
So yeah, again, like I said, it's a very kind of, it's not low energy, but it is also just very laid back, just in a lot of ways. But it just, I don't know, it's just a well done kind of, ultimately what it probably is going to be at its core, a Russian rock album. So that is the album Наше, ничего by the group ПОЛЮСА. Okay. Next up, we have an artist who we saw last year. This is polnalyubvi with the album Песнь Нимфеи. Last year, she released an album which was, I gotta find it, like Люби меня. I don't remember. Hold up, let me find it here. Прощай и люби меня. And that was kind of folk-tinged radio rock. It was fun in Evanescence sort of way, of like Evanescence was, I don't know, a little bit more into folk music. And back then, last year, like in, I think, April of last year, May of last year, I said it would be nice if she could take that sound, that sort of folk Evanescence, or Evanescence with folk mixed into it, and marry it together with the pop folk that she was known for in the past. And like, let's be real, I'm not a die-hard fan of polnalyubvi. My familiarity with her work is limited to like a few songs that I have encountered over the years, plus last year's Прощай и люби меня, and then just kind of a cursory run through of her overall music output that I did last year when I was kind of familiarizing myself with her. So it is possible in all of this that I might be way off base with this. I saw some people saying that this album was kind of simple, that her first album, this is the second album in her cycle of the nymphs. It's her first album connected to this was Сказки лесной Нимфы. And then some people said that that was a more dynamic album, a better listen. I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm not some expert on polnalyubvi, but this is closer to the sound that I was hoping for last year. I'd even go so as far as to say is that I think polnalyubvi here should maybe even lean a little bit further back into that rock sound from time to time. We do get that on the second track, and I will focus on that. And there are some tracks that I feel have like some Taylor Swift style energy. So maybe that it is just a nice contrast to not have too much of the rock sound. It's a nice balance overall, nice thing. The core sound here still, though, is ultimate. Even ignoring the radio rock or the Swift stylings of the songs, the core is pop folk. So the heart of this album is acoustic, it's fragile, it's orchestral, it's kind of expansive. There's a soundtrackness to it. It's, I think, a really good example of what folk pop in Russia is. It's not the Americana-tinged songs of a group like Lord Huron, but something clearly in the same spirit, just sonically very different. So let's hit this up. So this is the one that has like kind of that pop rock energy.
Сквозь улыбку бьет тоска. Она как тень в свинце небес, где свет не помнит, что воскрес. Пусть мой крик найдет тебя, ледяная.
Also very Imagine Dragons. It's the radioactive.
Она идет.
And then this one I thought had some kind of Taylor Swift energy in it. Not here so much, but this is kind of the heart of that, the core sound of the album. This very, which makes sense. It's supposed to be about like forest nymphs. So I don't know. Am I off base with the like a bit of Taylor Swift I'm hearing here? I don't know. I'm not like a Swiftie by any way, but maybe there's a better comparison or a better illusion to be drawn there. I don't know. I don't even know what Taylor Swift song this reminds me of, but I feel like there's some Swift here. But like I said, the core of the album is this kind of pop folk, or folk pop, like pop folk. Which, no dig on that first EP, Клятва, that I opened with this evening, but like, I kind of prefer this. It's still got the same energy, but I don't know. It's pop. I get it. Like, that's kind of the appeal of it. It's pop music. So, again, I recently re-listened to polnalyubvi's album from last year, and like, while I did enjoy it, this is kind of what I was hoping for. So I'm glad to see her kind of come back to that pop folk sound, but also bring in some other elements that I think had perhaps been lacking in the past. So yeah, that is the album Песнь Нимфеи by the artist polnalyubvi. Just a really nice pop folk album that I do think is going to probably find a bit of popularity here. The first track, Девочка с севера, is the one that's the lead single. And I do think there's a lot of sort of goida, a lot of kind of push here, kind of like this sort of traditionalism, trying to find that. And I think it's going to resonate with some people on that front. Anyway, that's not the top pick of the week, though. That is going to be this one right here, which is Rеконкиста. That's the name of the album, from the group ИСПАНСКИЙ СТЫД. Now, ИСПАНСКИЙ СТЫД is a Russian phrase. It means Spanish embarrassment. It's when you feel embarrassed because someone else does something stupid, right? Like you feel embarrassed for something. Yeah, I don't know. There are some albums that are just also fantastic album artwork here. There are some albums which are just better heard than explained, and this is one of them, but just a few words. The overall sound and energy is dance rock merged with gypsy punk, like Gogol Bordello, but there's also indie rock here too, right? We're not getting around that. All live instruments, layers of them, plenty of accordions and other such Eastern European folk instruments. It's like a traveling carnival rolled into town, and you're standing in the midway with the flashing lights and the various men hawking goods and heckling you, working the game stalls, crying out, right? And everything's demanding your attention as you move sort of through that space, like from one attraction to the next. It is a very colorful, very energetic ride, and I'm just gonna play like a little bit here and there, and I think you'll get it. It's a really fun album, really colorful, It's just really good.
Нереальная причина, сколько повод. Каждое слово прячет оголенный провод. Каждая радуга желает быть черной мясо. Реклама, как и тело, двигатель прогресса. Двигай им активнее, покуда не замерз. Созвездие, как легендарный хит из паспиос. Айвона просто хочется расслабиться, пока ночь тиха. Хороводы звезд закружи локоны берез. Водопады слез наливали мороз, мороз. Заказывали добро пожаловать на звездный шар. Все, что вы знаете, не нужно.
That electric keyboard in the background. I don't. Was there an accordion on this track? I don't even remember. But I'm pretty sure there is on this one. And if not, we'll find one. There is plenty of accordion to be found, or squeeze box, or whatever you want to call it. We get a little B-52's energy off of this track. Rock Lobster.
На ваши призрачные счастья не различает цветы масти, и вам меня не поменять. Жатва! Жатва! Жатва!
So again, if you know Gogol Bordello, then this sound, horns, I forgot to mention horns before. This is going to be familiar for the Gogol Bordello crowd.
Солнце загодя зашло в зенит. Деревья в кроне
Why can't I not find? I can't find the accordion now. I feel like I was hallucinating it.
давно ушло, как время день назад. Ушло, но всё же хорошо вернуть.
I mean, I'm glad I found the horns.
Предметы интерьера, пару черных гансов, кассетный плеер, старый поворот.
Piano now.
Упущенный десяток лучших шансов. Ночь без сна, шкаф без одежды. Где печали, где надежды? Что-то здесь совсем нечисто. Объявляю реконкисту. Объявляю реконкисту.
For those of you who are familiar with Russian music too, it feels a lot like the group Leningrad, the old one, back before Schnur fucking lost his mind and sold out. And also without all the cussing. Got the electric keyboard again. Nope. I have to find it. I have to find the accordion. Give me a second. Is this it? Oh my god, I cannot find it now. What the f- This has a lot of the indie rock energy here. Where's that goddamn accordion? It's like on one track. I was hallucinating the accordion. I don't know what's going on. I mean, you're getting like a walk through the entire album, so I guess that's good. It's good. It's good. I would. I swear to God, I'm. I guess it's on this track. There it is, on the final one that I decided to click on. So, anyway, as you can see across all of the tracks, because now you've heard, I think, snippets of all of them, There's a very wide spread of instruments, but it does have that kind of like that gypsy punk, Eastern European folk instrument sound to it, right? The horns, the squeeze box, finally, the regular piano, but then you have the electric keyboards in there too, like the electric pianos, and just it's such a whirlwind of sound and energy, but it's all fun, right? There are, like, again, you probably heard as I was jumping around there are a few moments where it does slow down and get a little bit more kind of introspective or more serious, but it's such a really fun album. This is probably the first album. Granted, this is the second week I've been talking about music for 2026, but this is the first album of the music from 2026 that I've been listening to that I'm actually just like, this is an album that I will come back to, right? No offense to the other ones. I will come back to them in due time too. But this is like one that I feel like people are going to be at the end of the year. It's like, yeah, this is one of the albums that we listen to all year round. So that is the group ИСПАНСКИЙ СТЫД, and the album is Реконкиста. And that's it for 2026 albums. But there are two albums left that I want to talk about. The first one is a few weeks back, somebody suggested I check out this album, Проклятие, негритёнка с папироской, by the artist Заги Бок. This is an older, I do not know why the album artwork is not loading up there, an older rap album here from 2017. So I guess we're doing like a little bit of a classic dive here. Like, listening to this, when I was making my notes here, is what I got is this. I hate to say this because I always feel like things are moving forward and evolving, and statements like things were better back in the day are a cultural Ludditism. But after listening to this little mini album here, it's hard to ignore the fact that the Russian rap scene about a decade or so ago was in a better place than it is now. There are a lot of good artists. There's a lot of good stuff happening now. But I do feel like, and I think a lot of people will stand by this, Russian rap was better in the day. I think a lot of people would argue that case in the States as well. But I think this release is a perfect example of that. The flows, the beats, the production, they got a Crystal Castle samples on the first track, which I was just like floored by. The lyrics, this feels classic for many reasons. And it's one of those things where like you can put this album up next to a modern album, but it's like you run into the question, to use a West, is like, is Nas better than Travis Scott? Probably the answer is going to depend likely on your age, but it's Nas. Like, there's no, like, as I said, the answer is Nas. Like, I'm sorry, that's it. And that's kind of how it is with this album as well. Younger listeners might say that it's mid or that it's kind of old school or whatever, but the care and the craftsmanship and the skill is impossible to ignore on this. And love went into this music, and it wasn't something that was just like slapped together on a laptop somewhere and then churned out and uploaded. This was something that they put together and they mastered, and they released an actual honest to God CD, right? So I think that the moving into the all digital has changed our relationship and the way people make it. So classics are sometimes classic for a reason. And I'm not going to lie, the rapping on Fuck 'Em is in English. So the English rapping on that track for what is not their native language is honestly better at times than modern English language rappers rapping. So this is like, I got to start with the first track though, because like this thing is just, the Crystal Castle sample is so good.
из тех сотен. Давай по красоте замутим. Успел забыть, забить, заснуть, обессутил. Бросил на полпути, то ли в подпитии, то ли в подутии, то ли все прокутил, не подтянул по валюте. В старом худе, в безумии, один на студии. Проебал все прелюдии революции. Теперь еще сложнее понять, кто все эти люди, что доселе засесть успели в груди. Бывало клево, бывало мутило. Бывало вел себя как мудила. Ходил на месте, худел, терял силы. И в огне жег, и в воде гасил их.
But I do feel like the second half of this album is just, as much as I love that first track, the second half is just so strong. This is the English one.
Now see them laughing, they're winning. I'm losing, less women, more boozing. Been swimming, been cruising, been bleeding, been bruising. Ain't got skills up, been bitch, ain't getting richer. And it's feature that preach, so fuck being teach to each. I'm out of this
Like,
bitch.
it's a little awkward, but the fact that they just decided to go with it anyway, like, kudos. I mean,
The game became, there's no more here to aim. Shame what the game became, there's no more here to aim. Shame what the game became. Fuck 'em, fuck 'em, fuck 'em, fuck 'em, fuck 'em, fuck 'em.
that is the one phrase that I think everyone in any, regardless of their language, knows. But
Cause I always will stay under. Now I'm straight out of Gundam coming here, but there's no more hit the end. Cousin, who let the dogs die from the lack of oxygen? There's not the codex of shadow box. Damn shame, I always dream how I shot you.
like, some of the lines are a little clunky, but regardless, I'll go back to the Russian for just a second here so that we can really.
Полный набор, ведь жизнь здесь и так игрушка дьявола есть же. И не все так просто выдерживают напор, кто-то давно за бортом. А мог бы, говорят, если бы был чуть поболее упертым. Кто-то уже мертв, а кто-то так и остался ребенком. А я накинул на свой голос, делая ревербом, чтобы как будто я поодаль, как будто в стороне от тех, с кем не хотелось бы быть наравне. Хоть и не в плюс мне сравнение, а мы все на одном корабле. И я не рабле, просто имеет смысл быть скромнее. Скажи мне, кто твой кумир, я скажу, куда катится мир и как ты деградировал. Парируй цифрами просмотров прямых эфиров. Но знаешь, это же просто во время чумы пир. Пидор, грубо говоря, тут наших душ трупы горят с января.
So, yeah, I mean, this album is, what, at this point in time, 8 years old? Not entirely sure. When did it come out? In 2017? May 9th. So, it's coming up on its 9-year anniversary. And yeah, I mean, I get it. This is a really good rap album. I had not listened to Zagi Bok before, but I do think it's interesting too because I was listening to a rap album from last year not long ago, and I did hear his name mentioned. So it is also one of those things where I guess I do enjoy when people throw those suggestions out because those pieces are, especially with rap and hip hop, like those references are scattered throughout the lyrics always, and kind of being able to make those connections is kind of a key part of being able, at least textually, to enjoy rap music. But that is the sort of mini album Проклятие, негритёнка с папироской by the artist Заги Бок. And that's basically it, but there is one last group I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about it. This album came out in 2024, April 20th, 2024. This is probably my favorite album of 2024. This is the album Сны Балтийского моря by Шумы Штормовых Широт. This is basically the Russian version of Russian Circles. It's post-rock, post-metal, it's instrumental, and it feels, the album translates as Dreams of the Baltic Sea. And the band name translates to the noise of stormy latitudes, or the sounds of stormy latitudes. And this is such a good album. The reason I'm bringing it up now is because it's from 2024. I didn't have a chance to talk about it last year. And these guys are releasing their follow-up tomorrow. So I have heard snippets, and snippets are always one of those things that get you geared up and hype for what's coming out next. So if the snippets hold true to the overall output of the coming album, then yeah, I'm going to be super hype about that next week. Even nevertheless, right? Like, this album is something that you should still check out. It's just like it's got a lot of drive. It's heavy, but it's also like the type of thing that if you're not a metal person, you can still get into. So let me just play a little bit, because I've been listening to this a decent amount in the last few days, getting ready for their follow-up, which theoretically should drop in about 30 minutes. So I love this album too, because it's got such a, I think I did actually talk about this in a video I made, but most people didn't see that. So if you just imagine the Baltic Sea, and if you've never been to the Baltic Sea, then Lake Superior, just like it's a big body of water, but it's not huge. But because it's so far north, it can be very like tumultuous at times. I mean, it's not super dangerous, but there's a very like marine sound to this, just like a rolling aspect to everything here. I mean, I'll be the first to admit this is not perfect. Like, the sound here could be a little bit tighter, but it is still really good. I'll cut it there. Really good album. Again, I hope the follow-up tomorrow. If this was maritime themed, as far as I understand, the follow-up is supposed to be more connected to like the mountains, if I'm not mistaken. So it kind of feels like they're maybe doing a Mastodon thing as well too, where we had Leviathan and now we're getting the Blood Mountain. And I'm also all game for that. If that's what they're going in an elemental type of albums. But yeah, at the very least, really good album of just like really strong kind of post-rock, post-metal, instrumental rock, if you will, instrumental metal. That is the album Sny Baltiskого morya, and the group is Шумы Штормовых Широт. Really good stuff. And as always, the links to all that stuff in the description below. But yeah, that is kind of it. I am going to go ahead and wrap it up. There's not really anything left for me to go on about. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice that we are back into new music mode. January has been a slow month. I assume that the final Friday, tomorrow, will see maybe a big dump of new releases, but I don't know. It's nice. It's nice that it's manageable. I mean, I still have in my playlist of January releases, I still have like 12 hours worth of releases. But typically when it gets to be the end of the month, I have like 1,000 tracks that I just am never going to get around to listening to. And here it's like 200. It's like, okay, that's theoretically, if it's not a busy Friday next week, I will probably listen to most everything that comes out in January, which is wild. But anyway, I guess we'll find out next week. Yeah, I'll be back next Thursday to do the roundup of the final releases, or the final January releases. And then, yeah, at 10 p.m. next Thursday for music, Moscow time. And then Sunday, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Moscow time for the news. But I'm going to wrap it up. It's becoming an hour and a half now regularly, so which is fine, but it's more than enough. Everyone have a good evening, good afternoon. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you the next time I see you, and until then, пока-пока.